Harvey, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for doing this. My first question out of the gate is about the Alec Baldwin trial and the optics of Baldwin, how he has shown up for this, all the different ways he has shown up for this case, the way he dresses, the way he comports, the baby, the wife, the brother. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, look, it's not unusual for somebody to clean up for trial. I mean, we've seen that. And he looked very buttoned up. He looked like an insurance salesman today with the big black glasses. And, you know, I think he took the advice of his lawyer and said, look, you got to be totally between the lines here. Makes sense to bring his wife. Look, he has a bunch of kids. I don't know how many are going to end up in the trial. But I think that kind of family support means something because, look, he's facing, if convicted, 18 months behind bars. So the stakes are high. And I do think it gives a jury pause to see the collateral effect of a conviction. Although I don't think that's what's going to happen here, frankly.
All right. Well, I wanted to wax a little more on the kids, but go with that thread. And I'll come back to the kids in the courtroom possibility. But why don't you think that there'll be a conviction?
I think this is a BS prosecution from the jump. The prosecutors, look, I'll just tell you what I believe here. I think they saw a celebrity. They realized this could be high profile, get a lot of attention. And I think they were intoxicated by that. Look at what they did when they first filed the case against him. They used a law that wasn't even in effect at the time that the shooting occurred, and they ended up having to dismiss the case. So, look, he's an actor. And, you know, I know he was an executive producer, but it was a vanity executive producer role. He wasn't running the day-to-day operation. And the judge, I think, rightly said, you can't introduce any evidence of him as a producer. That's off the table. So now he's an actor who did something horrible and somebody died as a result. But the question, is it really reckless? And I think that, you know, he had every right to rely on the fact that there was an armorer there, that he was told it was a cold gun. Yeah, he was wrong to pull the trigger, although he says he didn't do it. But even if he did, if there was a dummy bullet in there, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. And he had no reason to know this was live ammo. It wasn't his responsibility to check the chamber. Actors generally, not always, but generally don't do that. And I think the jury is not going to convict. You know, I could be wrong. And
so
you and I both covered OJ, and I really did stop predicting then, but I don't see this as a conviction.
Right, me too. But the key word there is the jury, right? Like, you're in California, I'm in New York, this is New Mexico, and it really does depend, you know, what jurisdiction you're in as to what jury you're playing to. There is the real-life gun safety common sense argument to be made for a lot of gun enthusiasts. Many in New Mexico are. And then there's the play life, the fake life, Hollywood life, where those rules don't apply because you literally do have to point guns at people in the movies. Do you think it's going to be, I've had this conversation, but do you personally, because you know the country, like TMZ is everywhere and you've got your finger on the pulse, do you personally think that they can impart that Hollywood wisdom on a New Mexico jury, that it's not common sense in Hollywood? The rules don't apply about common sense gun handling.
I'm not sure this really defies common sense, Ashley. I mean, you have an armorer there for a reason. And I don't think it defies common sense that somebody who hears this is a cold gun, who knows there should be no live ammo on the set, would make that assumption that the gun is essentially harmless. And yeah, I mean, at a point, you know, he shouldn't have pulled the trigger. Again, he says he didn't. And I'm not sure they can even prove he did, because remember, when the FBI did the testing on the gun and ultimately decided that the trigger had to be pulled in order to fire, they damaged the gun in the process. And I think that compromises the test. So, look, I mean, you're right that New Mexico is not Hollywood, but Hollywood came to New Mexico to do this film. So to that extent, they really are kind of part of Hollywood.
So the next issue is like the jury doesn't miss anything in the courtroom, and Alec has been making all these expressions. I say that they're expressions that maybe aren't in his best interest. He's smirking, he's shrugging, he's rolling his eyes and giving his opinion with his facial expressions. And I'm wondering what you think that's going to do. I mean, don't forget, he's big New York guy coming down to New Mexico, and those jurors are New Mexicans. What do you think that's going to do for him?
It could go either way. I mean, some jurors ignore that stuff and they're listening to the testimony. And then some jurors decide they don't like somebody. And then that does hurt them when they start deliberating. Look, Alec Baldwin is a star. And, you know, I did a show a long time ago. The first show I ever produced was called Celebrity Justice. And, you know, I do think that there's a certain amount of goodwill that any famous person has when they go into a courtroom. And I think it is hard for people who have watched Alec Baldwin over the years, bought movie tickets, watched him on TV, watched him on Saturday Night Live, to suddenly say, I am going to now alter my brain and not think of him as a star, but think of him as a criminal. I think that is a long leap to fall out of love with somebody. So to that extent, yeah, I think maybe smirking is a bad idea, but he has a lot of goodwill as a celebrity, I think.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.